Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and on this show, we talk about everything crowdfunding, and specifically how to raise money online when it comes to websites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, but we also talk about things like equity crowdfunding, WeFunder, and I think the real reason that I wanted to start this show is just to prove to you that this is happening. I mean, you talk about this in my personal life, and people are like, this is crazy, Sal. Like, there's no way that this can actually be happening, but it is. And that's really what my mission is with this show, is to demonstrate that exactly by bringing on real world examples, people that are smashing their goals, people that are having massive success that you might not hear about in sort of the traditional news and marketing channels. And that's really been my passion when it comes to this show. And today, you're actually going to hear about something I think is really fascinating, which is this creator who was able to raise more than $2.3 million with their WeFunder campaign and attract more than 1,600 backers for the first functional coffee alternative. Now, I'm actually a massive, huge coffee consumer myself. Obviously grew up in Massachusetts, right? So I got to give a shout out to Dunkin' Donuts, even though they don't always necessarily have the greatest coffee. It's like a staple, but I also love iced coffee. And I've been thinking about this as well, like coffee alternatives, ways to keep yourself going throughout the workday without always going back to that iced coffee. So you're going to hear about that today. But in addition to, this is a really interesting product, you're also going to hear about the story that this entrepreneur went through in order to have multiple successes when it comes to their career, to have multiple exits, to be a 2 times co-founder. They've gone to TEDx Berkeley at the age of 28. And it's really an exciting, I think, story, but also you're going to hear a little bit about behind the scenes of what went into a mega raise. If you ever even just considered the possibility of like, what if I actually built a company that's larger than myself, right? What if I really swang for the fences and like I tried to do something that's bigger than anything that I even imagined possible? And you really just begin to suspend disbelief and to just listen to what some of the guests are saying on my show, all of a sudden, your mind begins to start working. You start kind of getting these different pieces of the puzzle together. It's like, you know what? It actually wouldn't be insane for me to do one of these campaigns. And even if I'm not doing a fraction of this $2.3 million raise, think about what that could do for you, for your business, for your future, for your career, and of course, for all of the people that depend on you and they're going to be working for you towards this dream, this vision, this mission, which you are also working towards right now. So you're gonna hear about that on today's podcast episode. In addition, if you are interested in learning more about equity crowdfunding, I got 2 links for you today on this, and you can check that out. And also, if you're interested in kind of getting direct contact with me, I'll also share a link for that at the end of today's show. So the first link that I want to share with you is a free equity crowdfunding course. This shows you how equity crowdfunding works. It talks about the important regulations and rules, some of the resources and websites you should know about, and kind of the ins and outs of how to do one of these campaigns. Go to this link I'm about to mention, enter your name and email, and you will register for that free course. That link is crowdcrux.com/equity course. Again, that link is crowdcrux, crowdcrux.com/equity course. crowdcrux.com/equity course. Okay, now if you're really just ready to like hit the ground running and you're like, I just want all of this, I want to be able to understand how this works. I also have a great audiobook out there, which you can check out at crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/equity audio, crowdcrux.com/equity audio, the second link before we get right into today's show. So again, I think you're really going to take a lot away from today's episode. Super cool, very exciting, and it's coming up right after this. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. And today we're speaking with the founder behind Rasa, which right now has raised over $2 million with their equity crowdfunding campaign on WeFunder, more than 1,500 investors for the first functional coffee alternative. And we're lucky enough to have the creator here on the show. Lopa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Definitely. For those that are listening in and they can't see your campaign, do you think you could just describe a little bit about what your company is about and what you're trying to achieve here?
Sure. Yeah. So we are working to help people transform their relationship to energy and transform the way that our culture relates to energy. And the angle that we're taking that is to change what they're drinking in the morning. So often we associate coffee as the only way that we really get energy. And there's a lot better ways to do it. Coffee's a little bit of a sloppy way to stimulate your central nervous system. So we've got a bunch of herbs from all around the world that are really fantastic for you. And we've put them into a delicious morning ritual that you can drink with your coffee, after your coffee, in addition to your coffee. But either way, it's going to help you have sustained, smooth, balanced energy and reduce your stress load as well and enhance your ability to deal with that stress.
That sounds good. I need some of that right now, honestly.
Yeah, most of us do, especially anybody in e-com after Black Friday. Whew.
Yeah, for sure. So you've had a really interesting career here. What were you doing before you started on embarked on this?
So I used to work in sustainable energy. I worked in a climate change solution called biochar, which is basically charcoal that's added to soil to improve carbon sequestration in the soil and soil quality overall. So I co-founded a couple of businesses there, had one exit, and then had a baby. And I left that career and did some traveling around the world and all of that, and then had a baby. And an unbelievably stressful year that year. I now call it my own personal 2020 because it was just like that level of shit show. And then had the baby and was like, wow, all right, I need something that's going to keep me going. And coffee has always been a little too much for me, but especially when I was that stressed out for that long, that sustained of a period, coffee was just way, way, way too much.
Why did gravitating towards, doing your own thing, starting your own company, giving TED Talks at 28 to thousands of people, like why do you feel like you started to gravitate towards doing your own thing early on?
It's a good question. I think I'm a little bit of a rebel and I don't like being told what to do. And I think it's that entrepreneurial mindset. One of the things, like part of the reasons why I actually, the first business that I co-founded, I was 24 and that was the business where we had an exit. And that was also the context where I was speaking at TEDx Berkeley and you lobbied at the UN and, all these wonderful opportunities. But I see potential, I see opportunity and then I put chutzpah behind it and make it happen. I just, there's something about that, making something from nothing
Mm,
that just really lights me up and is like, feels like part of why I'm alive anyway. I know we all have our own relationship to purpose, but there's something just so exciting about like, wait, I see a potential here. Like, I'll just make it happen. And I kept on doing that in the first business that I was working with. And they were like, okay, you're now a co-founder the way that you are operating in this business,
mm.
because I just kept on seeing potential and then making it happen.
It sounds to me like you're also really talented at bringing people together, right? Because you have this incredible management team. You have a bunch of people working here with different expertise. Do you have any thoughts on that for this one?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think fundamentally it's about like, why are we coming together? And, Simon Sinek talks about start with why. And I love his work. Okay, I'm like a pretty engaging, I can be an inspiring person. I can see that objectively. But the reality is that if I was just still like putting on an entertainment show and there was no substance behind it, it wouldn't have the gravitas to pull people together in that way. So I think that one of the things that I found over the course of my business is that my why kept getting deeper as I kept going. It was like at first I was like, here's an idea. All right, let's try that. And I had some philosophical whys about, why this was probably a good idea. But as we've gone along, and also as the entrepreneurial journey is such a freaking marathon,
Yeah.
it's a marathon with consecutive sprints embedded into it as well. And so each time it's like I've found that I've been pulling from something deeper and something deeper. And I'm very transparent as well. And that's something where I share with my team quite a lot, my own process of being a founder and being a CEO and what that means. And when my why deepens, I share that. And then everybody else gets more inspired and they put more into it as well. And so I think that that's
Yeah.
really getting into that core motivation of why you're doing something is something that people, especially in this time of the quote unquote great resignation, where people are looking for more purpose driven jobs, they're looking to have something that matters. That why is incredibly important. And you can do, a quote unquote less sexy job and still have a really profound why that can really galvanize people, but you have to do that work to go deep and find it.
Galvanize is a good word. Yeah. So, I mean, the other cool thing is when you first came out with this and now it's like public and everyone can see it and can invest, you've been able to attract over 1,500 people to invest, right away into the campaign, which is super exciting. How did you first get started on this other kind of trajectory? Because a lot of people think traditional VC, angel investing, right? How'd you get started with WeFunder and equity crowdfunding?
Yeah, so we were approached by a lot of VCs and had some great conversations, and some of them seemed like really wonderful people that could provide some real value. And there's just this, the VC model is, we sort of see it as it feels a bit extractive. It's sort of like, pumping the company as much as they can to get as much return as quickly as possible. And we're in this for a bit more of a long haul, and impact is really important to us. And being able to have creative control and values control, we're an impact driven business. And so, sometimes we talk to so-called impact investors who clearly did not give a crap about our impact. And some of them do, but it was kind of surprising how many were just like really about that bottom line. And it was much more important to us to be able to maintain what we're doing in that level and even increase it while also giving a return. So, and equity crowdfunding was something that we also love too, because you can turn your customers into, another level of brand ambassador for sure. And we have tremendous customer love. If you check out our reviews, I mean, it's just really, we're very lucky, and we have a very unique and singular product and way of doing things. And so that's part of why we have that. And so we're like, okay, this makes sense in that regard. And then we also just love that it kind of creates this ecosystem. To us, it feels like more regenerative capital, because your customers are investing, and of course we have non-customers as well, but something like 65% of our investors are customers. If your customers are investors, then when you do well, they do well. And so it's just this whole nice, it's almost like a
Cyclical,
biomimetic, yeah, cyclical, mutually supportive ecosystem for raising capital. And we still have voting rights and all of that, so we get to maintain uh, our closeness with what we know is best for the business.
How long did it take you from the second you're like, okay, we're going to do one of these equity crowdfunding campaigns to actually launching it? What was that like time like?
Yeah, so we decided in January, and we had so many other things going on that there was some light work on it for that first 6 months or so, but it was still also, there was a lot of internal discussions and considerations. Are we sure this is the best path? And like, might it be easier to find another way of raising capital, and all these kinds of considerations. But so I'd say for 6 months, it was sort of in a mental germination state. Even though we had already decided that we were going to do it, it was still just like, we sure? We're gonna have to
Yeah.
be like so, public with our financials. Everybody's gonna know how much money we make, well, all that stuff. And then we were like, what, but we're a transparent business. This makes sense for us. So we really started working on it in June, and we launched in October. And I would say it's the biggest launch we've ever done, bar none. Like really, it's almost like launching a small business inside of your business, in a way, is maybe one way to think about it. And we did use a partner, an agency partner who helps with crowdfunding campaigns and stuff like that, which was very helpful, just to have sort of the lay of the land of like, here's what you do for a successful campaign, from the ad structure and paid media to email flows and pre-launch and all of that. So we actually started the fundraising process. Gosh, I think we started our outreach in July. So I definitely recommend for anybody who's going the crowdfunding route to start pitching way before you actually launch the thing. Start pitching as soon as you have something substantive to point them to, even if it's not like, we didn't even have the landing page up yet, the WeFunder page, but we were already reaching out to our close network. And so that helps to build that momentum. And so that when you do launch, you have, something substantive in your total investment pool, and people that raises people's confidence as well.
So in having that conversation with that company and also just your own research, what do you feel like was one takeaway or one thing that you applied that worked really well for the campaign?
This isn't advice that we got from anyone. Actually, it was just something that we were like, this is how we're going to do it. But one of the things that we know when we were out there and we were talking to other businesses who were doing crowdfunding, that the valuations can be really overblown on crowdfunding. And I think that that's because it's a nascent market. And fundamentally, it tends to be a less sophisticated investor who's doing equity crowdfunding, as opposed to, an angel investor or a VC. And so, you know, our average customer probably doesn't know what the market valuation is for a CPG business at this time. And they don't know that, the valuations are a little bit overblown right now anyway. And they don't know that on crowdfunding, that tends to be even more. And I actually spoke to somebody who was about our size, revenue wise. And I was like, yeah, how did you guys evaluate your company? And she said, well, we really didn't want to do the whole thing where like, you see all these companies go on to crowdfunding and then they just jack up their valuations. So we just did a 10x valuation. That was their version of not jacking up their
Yeah.
valuation. It just
Wow.
blew my mind. Like they raised it at, a $60 million valuation, more than twice as much as we did at about the same level of revenue that we had. And I was like, wow, this is,
It's
I,
insane. Yeah.
it's insane. It's really, and I think that the tables are going to turn. And at some point, people are going to start to realize, like, wait a second, there are a lot of people that kind of pulled the wool over people's eyes here. So we kept our valuation market reasonable and so that we could, which allowed us to get angel investors and other bigger investors in through the crowdfunding platform so that, we've pulled in, like, I'd have to pull the numbers and everything, but, probably about like over 1 million came from checks that were 100 to 250,000 from larger investors who were more sophisticated, who did a full round of diligence on us. And because we weren't asking for 10x, they were like, yeah, we'll go through the crowdfunding platform, that's fine. And so that helped the momentum overall as well, because we had more investment capital coming in. And so we were on WeFunder's top trending campaign for a long time, which means that we got more eyes from WeFunder as well. And so it helped the flywheel keep going. And I believe that there's going to be a swing in the other direction where people, like, where there starts to become some regulation around this and people need to do 409As or valuations or stuff like that, because it's a little bit too wild west right now.
The other interesting thing you did was you did a priced round instead of crowd save for some of these other options. What was sort of behind that decision?
Yeah, we looked into SAFE and fundamentally just felt like that going with preferred stock would mean that, fundamentally we wanted to create this platform for our first raise where we were really sure that everybody was going to feel really confident and really safe and that we were going to get their returns no matter what, and that they were going to be paid back before debt.
They're your customers too, so.
Yeah, and there are customers, there are friends and family. We've got quite a bit of our personal networks in there, and so we just wanted to basically treat everybody as best as we possibly can with this first round, so that we have that platform to jump off when we go to do another round, as we most likely will.
When you were introducing this to your customer base, what was that like? Were you talking about their ability to partner with you? Was it selling the future vision? Like, what was that kind of introduction to the customer base like?
Yeah, so we started with, and this was another place where we did sort of a rolling rollout. And we had a friends and family round. And so we gave we started with, I think, our top 500 customers, and then our next 500 customers, and then another 1,000 after that. And then we did our subscribers, and then we did the full list. So we were starting to launch it to our customer base, I think 3 weeks before we publicly launched it. And gave them access to the friends and family round. And so they helped to fill that round up. And transparency is something that's very important to us. And we realize that, most of our customers aren't going to understand the world of investing and might feel hesitant because they might not think of themselves as like, I'm an investor. And that's one of the beauties of equity crowdfunding, is that, anybody can become an investor, but it's still so new that we realized there was a lot of education to be done. And
For sure.
so a lot of what we did was really transparently educate on how we evaluated the company, talked about this whole valuation kerfuffle with people with overblown valuation.
So cool. Yeah. So, I mean, just to also I was looking at what some of the people say, and it's so inspiring. I mean, we have like Vera here who's saying, I think you're just so cool and you inspire me. Sounds like an excellent product. Other people saying they invested because they believe that it's good for your health. My guts can't take coffee anymore. Rasa has been an unexpected upgrade. So you're clearly striking a chord here. And I think that kind of translated right into the actual campaign as well.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback we've gotten from our customer investors and investors in general has been amazing. We've had almost 800 people write comments of why they're investing. And man, I've read through some of those and just cried. It is just like I feel so seen and like, wow, they really get it. And sometimes you don't really know because it's a little bit of a one-way dialogue between like, you email market out to your customers, you market through all your different channels, and then they buy it, and you might not hear anything. You might get a review, and we get wonderful reviews, but that's kind of it. And that you don't necessarily get their commentary on your business. And here they felt this need to like, oh, here's why I'm investing in this business as a business. And I mean, just some really powerful, wonderful things. It's been a delight.
Yeah, for those who are kind of getting in the ground floor here and becoming a participant in this raise in your company, they really have to believe in a very specific vision of the future. How do you feel like this space is changing right now? How do you feel like it's growing? Can you share any numbers at all of what you guys are doing?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've had an excellent year so far. And even despite iOS 14, which I'm not sure if that's something that you and your listeners are privy to, but if any
Oh
of you
yeah,
are entrepreneurs, yeah, I'm sure that that's the dreaded iOS 14. Yeah, that definitely hit us, but we still had a really strong year. So we're going to probably close out the year at about 5 million in revenue. And
congrats! That's insane.
thank you.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So a little less than we were kind of hoping to double over last year, but a little bit less than that. And the
the space
space in
itself.
general,
Yeah.
yeah, is really, it's definitely expanding a lot. I mean, we have a peer company competitor that's just absolutely exploding. Now they've raised like $40 million. So they, it's just a different way that they're approaching their business. But people are waking up to, in general, you see like functional alternatives for almost everything. People are looking for their products to do more than they used to. Like it's not, I don't want just a beverage now. I want it to have herbs and things that are going to, improve my sleep or improve my, skin or any number of those things. And you see that happening just all down the grocery aisle.
Mhm.
And coffee is no different. And on top of that, stress levels and adrenal depletion and adrenal fatigue, all
Anxiety.
of these,
Yeah.
anxiety are all only increasing. And people are starting to become hip to the fact that coffee may not be helping in those situations. And, for some people that's more acute. And for some people, they might be like, oh, I have an idea that maybe I shouldn't drink so much coffee. But more and more, we're seeing people turn to functional alternatives. And so like this space is really booming. And the market research that we see, we're sort of in between the adaptogens market, the functional mushrooms market, which is absolutely exploding right now, in the functional beverages market. We're at a really good nexus to really scale.
That's really exciting. I mean, so when you first like woke up and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we passed the 2 million mark." Like, what did that feel like for you, as a female founder, as someone who's doing a new company in a different space? Like, what did that feel like for you?
We actually hit the 2 million mark on my birthday as well. So it was
Congrats.
it was definitely a happy birthday moment. And I woke up that morning and I was like, I can't remember what we were at. We were at like maybe 1.8. And I was like, okay, we won't hit the 2 million mark today, but like, cool, we're going to get close, which will be great. And we did for my birthday, we did like if you invest, we'll give you a free sampler pack. Because I like the idea of giving gifts on your birthday,
Yeah,
not
it's
just
a neat
receiving
idea.
them, the Hobbit thing. And yeah, I mean, it felt amazing. And also like, the reality is that in this world, it is unique that I'm a female founder. And often when I get on calls with investors, it's me and 5 dudes. And often, it's just, it is still more male dominated. And there's this other fact that I'm like, can it not be a big deal that I'm a woman? Like, can we just like get to the place where it's not like, we don't even talk about this? I'm just an entrepreneur, I'm just a
Yeah,
founder. But it is also real. And it is like, I do experience the, just sort of, I think it's actually a function of that the tides haven't caught up yet. It's like everybody got hip to the scene that women can be amazing entrepreneurs like 5-10 years ago, but it's like everything needs to catch up. Everybody had, opportunities like the childcare and paternal leave situation needs to be fixed
Mhm.
across the country. There's all these different systems that sort of need to catch up to allow space. I would say it's the same also with BIPOC entrepreneurs as well. Like everybody knows, like we're now starting, really starting to see, how tremendously successful these businesses can be when people with these backgrounds and this tremendous strength and resilience and
For sure.
capacity, found these businesses, but we just like culture hasn't caught up yet. And so I think in a few years, we're going to really see that women entrepreneurs are really catching up. BIPOC entrepreneurs are really catching up.
Do you feel a sense of obligation now that you have raised and have such a big range? You're obviously still also raising now. What are you going to be doing with these funds? Like, where is this going to go? Do you feel a sense of obligation or duty around that?
Oh my God, yes. The pressure went up so much when we started. Like as soon as we opened it up, we are like, oh God, it's like we have investors now. We have to, like I would say, especially in our leadership team across the business, everybody just has more of this eye towards like we've always been, because we've been bootstrapped up until this point, we've been incredibly capital efficient and capital consciousness. But now that there's other people's money involved, it's our customers and we just want to take such good care of them. It's a whole other level of, how are we using this to our
For the
best?
mission, yeah.
Yeah, for the mission, and then also how are we using this to think as big as possible, too. Like we don't want to, take that mentality of want to give a good return and be capital smart and also make that cause us to think small. So it's this kind of tension between these two ideas. And things that we're doing with the money, we're hiring a head of marketing. So we've gotten really far without having a whole lot of in-house e-commerce expertise, which I'm really surprised and
That's
impressed
really
by.
surprising.
And we're like, okay, let's go ahead and get a head of DTC marketing. So if you're listening, and we're expanding, we're basically hiring for 5 roles. We're going to start investing in influencers. That's a channel that we've been way under indexed on. PR is something that we've just not invested in at all. All of our PR so far has been organic. So actually getting a PR agency, getting a brick and mortar office and opening up a cafe. We're going to be doing our first clinical trials for our product, which we're very excited about. So we actually have some scientific, these people drank this and they noticed this in their heart rate variability and this in their sleep and all that good stuff.
I just have a couple more questions here. So, I mean, one of them is the other thing that stood out to me about your project is that you guys are a public benefit corporation, right?
Mhm.
And not a lot of people know what that is, but
Mm.
you sort of have a duty almost to the public in addition to your shareholders. Was that like a very conscious choice? Why did you make that choice?
Yeah, 100%. So we were previously an S corp, and basically, in order to be able to do the fundraising and take more than a few, I think the limit was 100 investors. We needed to restructure anyway, and we were already looking at. We've had a goal of becoming a B corporation, and a lot of people conflate B Corp and public benefit. They are fundamentally different, two completely different structures. And public benefit corporation actually is a legal corporate structure, whereas B Corp is just a qualitative certifying outside third party body. um, and so we liked that with a public benefit corporation. And fundamentally, like a corporation's primary raison d'etre is to maximize shareholder profits. Like if you're a standard corporation, you have to maximize shareholder profits. And if you don't, and if you do something that is counter to that aim, you can get sued by your shareholders. With a public benefit corporation, you actually have a legal and fiduciary responsibility to also maximize a public benefit that is in line with your mission. So our mission is sourcing sustainable herbs from traditional growing regions and promoting quality herbal education. So we can do things, we are actually legally and financially obligated to do things that maximize that. And if that comes in conflict with profits, that's okay because it's part of
That's so interesting.
public mission.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's really interesting the way you do that, and a lot of other companies as well have moved into that Kickstarter. I think WeFunder might also be it. I have to look that up.
They are. Yeah, they're a PBC.
Yeah, that's super cool. So just one or two more questions. So one is, you've done this incredible raise and experience and you're still live. Do you have any other final tips for people in the audience that are looking to do one of these in terms of what you would have done differently or just in general what you think people should start with here?
Yeah, I would approach it as a whole campaign and think about it as you're getting a new type of customer in. And that might be converting some of your existing customers to investor customers. But you want to think about the whole funnel. You're essentially building a funnel for these people. And so how you are acquiring those new investor customers, whether they're from your existing customer or whether they're new customers, and then how you're walking them through the funnel and through their experience of your business. And so, onboarding email flows are really important. And I would say transparency. As much as you let them in and feel like they have a real view into the business itself. It's not you as a brand now, it's you selling. You're not selling your product, you're selling your business. And so that's just a completely different mindset and a different way of educating the customer. And so I think as much as you can be transparent about all of the ins and outs and the struggles and the challenges. And we also did several Instagram lives and lots of Q&As and stuff like that, and just made ourselves really available to those customers. And then also what we've noticed is that investor customers understandably expect to be treated a little bit different on the customer service side as well. And so just preparing your customer service staff and just thinking having tags on those people so that when that's somebody who's emailing you. And of course you want to treat every single customer amazingly well, but just you have that additional sense of this person believed in us to the point of investing. So let's take that extra care.
Yeah, well said. My final question for you is, for those listening in the audience that are kind of in that early stage, and it could be a female in the audience, it could be a male entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. What's something you could share with them, either a final word of encouragement, a final tip on the journey, something that you just like to pass along, anything along those lines? We kind of end the show on that note.
I would say, going back to what I was saying earlier, is keep digging in for the why that you're doing this, because if it's just to turn a profit, if it's just to make money, the process is going to exhaust you too much, and because you're not going to make money for a long time.
The truth comes out.
You're not going to see those returns, most likely. I mean, it does depend on the business, of course, but you're not going to see those returns. And so you need to have that deeper why that's going to keep you going, that's going to keep you thinking about it in the shower, that's going to keep you, all the time. And allow yourself, one of the challenges that I have is just getting way too in the weeds and being way too constantly obsessed with the business. And that's easy to do because there's just so much to do and there's always more to create. But the reality is that I find that those times where I really do unplug and give myself space from the business, I have my best, most clear ideas. I have the best insights. I have, just new inspiration. And so it really is, you have to understand that this is a marathon, that there are sprints within this marathon. It's a long ass process.
Yeah. I love
harder than you will think. And so having your why and also allowing yourself to really maintain and support your own mental health is going to be really important.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can people go to learn more about this campaign and about what you're doing?
We are over at wearerasa.com. And on WeFunder, it's wefunder.com/Rasa. And the campaign will be closing in, I think about 2 weeks. We're actually just about to be endorsed to Damon John's Angels and Entrepreneurs list, which we're very excited about. So we kept it open a little longer than we were going to, and then we'll be closing it up.
Exciting. So I'll be sure to link that up. But thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate all your advice and good luck with your remaining weeks here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
What up? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And I hope that you took a lot away from this particular podcast episode, a lot of actionable tips, and also a little bit of inspiration that you're moving towards your goals. You're moving towards that vision that you have, and you're working day and night. You're doing it after work. You're doing it on the weekends. It's because you believe in what is possible, and you really want to bring something different, something radically different, something innovation changing, something that's a level up from whatever else is out there to the world. And to me, that's so difficult, but at the same time, it is so fun, so inspiring. And it's really just doing work and labor that you. So if you really want to take further serious steps towards that vision, if you really want to find out what you got to do one of these equity crowdfunding campaigns, if you want to find out if this is good for you, or if you're already determined that and you're like, okay, I just need to know how to blow this thing up, I've got a great link for you. You're going to want to book a one-on-one intensive coaching call with me, where we'll go in depth into every aspect of your project, of your startup, of your company, so you can understand how this is going to help you much more effectively and much more powerfully. So if you're interested, go to this link I'm about to mention and book a one-on-one coaching call with me. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. When you go there, you just have to fill out a little bit of information so I can know more about you and what you're trying to accomplish. We can get that intensive coaching call scheduled ASAP, as well as with some action items and homework and all of that that comes with that. So finally, that link, crowdcrux.com, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much, man, for joining me on today's episode. Hope you took a lot away. Please give me a positive rating and review on iTunes, on Spotify if you're listening there, or if you're on YouTube. Leave a comment there, just a kind of nice pat on the back, or give me a thumbs up so other people know this is worth their time and I can put out more great training and education just like this. So we can just bring more light to this. Honestly, just shed a light on this, what I think is very complicated and confusing process, which is all about WeFunder and equity crowdfunding. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.